Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will strip away every comfortable lie you've been fed about human nature, about society, about the very foundations of the world you think you understand. Thomas Hobbes knew something that most people spend their entire lives running from. That beneath the thin veneer of civilization, beneath the polite smiles and social contracts, lies something far more primal, far more dangerous, and infinitely more real than anything your teachers, your parents, or your society ever dared to whisper in your ear. These 7 secrets I'm about to reveal aren't just observations about human behavior. They are the fundamental laws that govern every interaction, every relationship, every moment of power and submission that occurs in the theater of human existence. And once you understand them, once you truly internalize what they mean, you can never go back to the innocent ignorance that keeps most people trapped in cycles of disappointment, betrayal, and powerlessness. The first secret that Hobbes understood, the one that forms the bedrock of all human interaction, is this: every person you meet is fundamentally driven by self-interest, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying to you or lying to themselves. This isn't cynicism. This is reality stripped of its pretty packaging. When someone helps you, when someone claims to love you, when someone swears their loyalty, there is always an underlying calculation happening in their mind. What do I gain from this? How does this serve my interests? What advantage does this relationship provide me? The sooner you accept this truth, the sooner you stop being surprised when people disappoint you, betray you, or abandon you the moment a better opportunity presents itself. This doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. The evil lies in pretending otherwise, in building your life on the foundation of trust, without understanding the mechanics of self-interest that drive every human heart. When you understand that people act in their own interest, you stop taking their actions personally. You stop expecting them to sacrifice for you, unless they have compelling reasons to do so. You stop being shocked when fairness and justice take a backseat to personal gain. Instead, you begin to operate from a position of clarity, understanding that if you want loyalty, you must make loyalty profitable. If you want respect, you must make disrespecting you costly. If you want love, you must make loving you the most advantageous choice available. This isn't manipulation. This is mastery of the human condition. The second secret cuts even deeper into the heart of social dynamics. People will only respect the boundaries you're willing to enforce with consequences. Hobbes understood that without a sword to back up the law becomes merely a suggestion, a polite request that can be ignored whenever convenient. The same principle applies to every aspect of your personal life. Every time you state a boundary and then fail to enforce it, you teach the world that your words are empty, that your limits are negotiable, and that you can be pushed, manipulated, and walked over without consequence. The person who constantly threatens to leave but never leaves becomes a joke. The person who always says they won't tolerate certain behavior but then tolerates it anyway becomes a doormat. The person who claims to have standards but consistently compromises them for the sake of keeping peace becomes a target for every predator and user who crosses their path. Respect isn't earned through kindness, through being nice, through being accommodating. Respect is earned through demonstrating that there are lines that cannot be crossed without facing real, tangible consequences. This means being willing to walk away from relationships that violate your boundaries. This means being willing to endure temporary discomfort, loneliness, or conflict in order to maintain your integrity. This means understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to show them that their behavior has costs, because without costs, there is no learning, no growth, no respect. People push boundaries to see what you're made of, to test whether you mean what you say, to discover whether you respect yourself enough to demand respect from others. When you consistently enforce your boundaries with calm, decisive action, you teach the world how to treat you. The third secret reveals the uncomfortable truth about power dynamics in every relationship. There is always one person who needs the relationship more than the other, and that person has less power. Hobbes recognized that power is never equally distributed, that every human interaction contains an implicit negotiation about who has more to lose, who has more options, who needs what from whom. The person who loves more has less power. The person who has fewer alternatives has less power. The person who is more emotionally invested has less power. This isn't romantic, this is mathematics. And mathematics doesn't care about your feelings or your ideals about how relationships should work. The moment you become more invested in a relationship than the other person, The moment you need them more than they need you, you have surrendered your power to them. They don't have to earn your love anymore. They already have it. They don't have to work to keep you. You've already demonstrated that you're not going anywhere. They don't have to respect your needs. You've shown that you'll stay regardless of how they treat you. This is why desperate people are always taken advantage of. This is why people who have no other options are always treated poorly. This is why the person who cares least in any relationship holds all the cards. Understanding this dynamic doesn't mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means maintaining your independence, your options, your own life and goals outside of any relationship. It means never making another person your entire world, because the moment you do, you become a planet orbiting their sun, subject to their gravitational pull, dependent on their light for your very existence. The person with power in any relationship is the person who could walk away and still be okay, still have a life, still have purpose and meaning. Build that person. Be that person. The fourth secret exposes the harsh reality about how people really form their opinions of you. They judge you far more by what you allow than by what you say. Hobbes understood that actions reveal character while words conceal it, that people watch what you tolerate, what you accept, what you permit in your presence far more closely than they listen to your speeches about your values and standards. If you say you value respect, but you allow people to disrespect you, they learn that you don't really value respect. You just like talking about it. If you claim to have high standards, but you consistently accept less than those standards, people understand that your standards are flexible, negotiable, meaningless. If you talk about your worth, but you accept treatment that contradicts that worth, people conclude that even you don't believe what you're saying about yourself. Your reputation, your perceived value, your social status, all of these are determined not by your marketing campaign about yourself, but by the evidence people observe about what you're willing to tolerate. The person who accepts scraps will be offered scraps. The person who settles for mediocrity will be given mediocrity. The person who tolerates disrespect will be disrespected. This is why your boundaries, your standards, your non-negotiables aren't just personal preferences. They are public statements about your value, your worth, your place in the social hierarchy. Every time you compromise them, you're not just hurting yourself. You're teaching everyone around you to value you less. Every time you enforce them, you're not just protecting yourself. You're educating others about who you are and what kind of treatment you command. People are constantly watching, constantly evaluating, constantly adjusting their opinion of you based on what you demonstrate about yourself through your actions and your tolerance levels. The fifth secret reveals why most people live lives of quiet desperation. They have confused being liked with being respected, and in doing so, they have sacrificed their power for popularity. Hobbes knew that fear and respect often go hand in hand, that being feared is often more useful than being loved, because fear is more reliable than love. Love is conditional, changeable, fickle. It depends on mood, circumstances, competing interests. But fear is consistent. Respect born from understanding someone's strength, their boundaries, their willingness to defend themselves. That respect endures. When you prioritize being liked over being respected, you become a people pleaser, constantly adjusting your behavior to avoid conflict, constantly suppressing your own needs to accommodate others, constantly sacrificing your authenticity for acceptance. But here's what you don't realize. People don't actually respect people pleasers. They use them, they take advantage of them, they feel comfortable walking all over them, but they don't respect them. Respect comes from strength, from having a backbone, from being willing to stand up for yourself even when it's uncomfortable. Respect comes from being someone who can't be easily manipulated, easily bullied, easily taken advantage of. This doesn't mean being aggressive or mean. It means being firm, consistent, and unwilling to compromise your core values for the sake of keeping everyone happy. The person who is respected might not be invited to every party, might not be everyone's favorite, might not be the most popular person in the room, but they sleep well at night knowing that when people interact with them, it's because they choose to, not because they have to, and the interactions are based on genuine mutual regard rather than manipulation or exploitation. Better to be respected by a few than to be liked by many who secretly view you as weak. The sixth secret cuts to the heart of personal power. Most people will never tell you the truth about your weaknesses, your blind spots, or your shortcomings, and this conspiracy of silence is one of the greatest threats to your growth and success. Hobbes understood that people have strong incentives to avoid difficult conversations, to keep the peace, to maintain comfortable illusions rather than confront uncomfortable realities. Your friends don't want to hurt your feelings, so they don't tell you that your business idea is flawed. Your family doesn't want to create conflict, so they don't tell you that your relationship is toxic. Your colleagues don't want to risk their standing, so they don't tell you that your performance is lacking. Your romantic partners don't want to deal with your emotional reactions, so they don't tell you that certain behaviors are pushing them away. This creates a bubble of false reality around you, where everyone smiles and nods and tells you what they think you want to hear, while your actual problems, your real weaknesses, your genuine areas for improvement, remain hidden from your view. You walk through life thinking you're doing better than you are, thinking your relationships are stronger than they are, thinking your performance is more impressive than it is, because nobody has the courage or the incentive to give you the harsh truths that could actually help you improve. This is why feedback is so valuable and so rare. This is why criticism, when it's honest and specific, is a gift even when it doesn't feel like one. This is why you must actively seek out people who will tell you the truth, who care more about your long-term success than your short-term comfort, who are willing to risk your temporary displeasure in order to help you see your blind spots. Most people are too comfortable to grow, too protected from reality to develop real strength, too insulated from honest feedback to build genuine competence. Don't be most people. The seventh and final secret is perhaps the most important. The world doesn't owe you anything, and the sooner you stop expecting it to, the sooner you can start taking control of your life. Hobbes saw clearly that the natural state of human existence is struggle, conflict, competition for scarce resources. There is no cosmic justice system ensuring that good people get good outcomes and bad people get punished. There is no universal principle guaranteeing that hard work always pays off, that honesty is always rewarded, that kindness is always returned. The world is indifferent to your struggles, your pain, your dreams, your sense of what's fair. Bad things happen to good people. Evil people sometimes prosper. Life is often unfair, brutal, and random. But here's the liberating truth hidden within this harsh reality. Once you stop expecting the world to be fair, once you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you, once you stop believing that you're entitled to anything simply by virtue of existing, you can start taking responsibility for creating the life you want. You can stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the author of your own story. You can stop waiting for permission, for approval, for the perfect conditions, and start taking action with the resources and opportunities you have right now. Every moment you spend complaining about unfairness is a moment you're not spending building strength. Every ounce of energy you waste on resentment about what you deserve is energy you're not investing in creating what you want. The most successful people, the most powerful people, the most fulfilled people understand this truth. They don't waste time arguing with reality. They work with it. They adapt to it. They find ways to thrive within it. They understand that their happiness, their success, their security is their responsibility and their responsibility alone. These 7 secrets form the foundation of what Hobbes would have called enlightened self-interest, not the crude selfishness of taking advantage of others, but the sophisticated understanding of human nature that allows you to navigate the world as it actually is, rather than as you wish it were. When you understand that everyone acts from self-interest, you can structure relationships that serve everyone's interests and therefore endure. When you understand that respect comes from enforcing boundaries, you can build relationships based on genuine mutual regard rather than resentment and exploitation. When you understand power dynamics, you can maintain your independence and avoid becoming a victim of other people's whims. When you understand that people judge you by what you tolerate, you can consciously shape your reputation and social standing. When you understand the difference between being liked and being respected, you can choose respect and avoid the trap of people-pleasing. When you understand that most people won't tell you the truth, you can actively seek out honest feedback and real growth opportunities. When you understand that the world owes you nothing, you can take full responsibility for your life and your outcomes. But here's the thing that Hobbes understood and that most people never grasp. These truths aren't meant to make you cynical, bitter, or cruel. They're meant to make you strong, clear-eyed, and effective. When you understand human nature as it really is, you can work with it instead of against it. You can build relationships that actually work instead of relationships that disappoint you. You can set expectations that are realistic instead of expectations that lead to constant frustration. You can take actions that produce results instead of actions that make you feel good but accomplish nothing. You can protect yourself from predators and users while still being open to genuine connection and mutual benefit. You can be kind without being weak. generous without being taken advantage of, trusting without being naive. The person who understands these truths becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Dangerous to manipulators because they can't be easily fooled. Dangerous to users because they won't be taken advantage of. Dangerous to bullies because they won't be intimidated. Dangerous to anyone who profits from other people's weakness and ignorance. But they also become incredibly valuable to the right people. Valuable to those who appreciate strength. Valuable to those who prefer honest relationships. Valuable to those who want to surround themselves with people who understand how the world really works and how to navigate it effectively. This is your choice. You can continue living in the comfortable illusions that keep most people weak, dependent, and perpetually surprised by human behavior. Or you can embrace these harsh truths and use them to build a life of genuine strength, clarity, and power. You can keep expecting people to be different than they are. Keep being shocked when they act in their own interest. Keep being hurt when they don't respect boundaries you don't enforce. Keep wondering why you're not treated better when you tolerate being treated poorly. Or you can accept reality, work with human nature instead of against it, and build the kind of life that commands respect, attracts genuine relationships, and gives you the power to shape your circumstances instead of being shaped by them. But let me be clear about what this transformation actually looks like, because understanding these secrets intellectually is only the beginning. The real work begins when you start implementing them in your daily life, when you start making the hard choices that separate the strong from the weak, the conscious from the unconscious, the powerful from the powerless. It begins the first time you walk away from a relationship that violates your boundaries, even though you're afraid of being alone. It begins the first time you say no to a request that doesn't serve your interests, even though you're afraid of disappointing someone. It begins the first time you choose respect over popularity, strength over comfort, truth over pleasant lies. These moments are crucibles, and they will test everything you think you know about yourself, everything you believe about what you're capable of, everything you've been taught about how you should behave in the world. The path of applying these secrets is not an easy one, because it requires you to swim against the current of a society that profits from your weakness, your compliance, your willingness to accept less than you deserve. Every institution, every system, every structure of power benefits when you remain ignorant of these truths. Your employer benefits when you don't understand your own value, and therefore accept less than market rate for your skills. Your romantic partners benefit when you don't understand power dynamics and therefore tolerate treatment that a stronger person would never accept. Your friends and family benefit when you prioritize being liked over being respected, because it means they can take advantage of your good nature without consequence. The entire social contract is built on the assumption that most people will remain weak, desperate for approval, afraid of conflict, unwilling to enforce their boundaries, unconscious of their own power. When you start operating from strength, when you start demanding respect, when you start enforcing consequences, you disrupt this entire system. You become a threat to the comfortable arrangements that allow others to benefit from your weakness. This is why the journey towards strength is often a lonely one, at least initially. The people who benefited from your old patterns of behavior will resist your transformation. They will try to guilt you back into your old role. They will accuse you of being selfish or difficult or changed. They will attempt to manipulate you back into the position where they had power over you. Some relationships will not survive your awakening to these truths. And this is not a failure. It is a necessary cleansing. The relationships that were built on your weakness, your desperation, your willingness to accept scraps, were never really serving you anyway. They were serving the other person at your expense. And the moment you stop allowing yourself to be exploited, these relationships reveal their true nature. Let them go. Mourn them if you must, but understand that their ending is making space for something better, something built on mutual respect rather than exploitation, something that serves both parties rather than just one. The person you become when you fully integrate these secrets is someone who operates from a position of strength rather than weakness, clarity rather than confusion, intention rather than reaction. You become someone who enters relationships because you choose to, not because you need to. You become someone who adds value to every interaction because you understand your own worth and refuse to accept anything less than mutual benefit. You become someone who can navigate conflict with confidence because you understand that conflict is often just a negotiation about boundaries and expectations, and you know exactly what your boundaries and expectations are. You become someone who can handle rejection, criticism, and disappointment without losing your center, Because your sense of self-worth is not dependent on external validation, but on your own understanding of your value and your commitment to living according to your own standards. But perhaps most importantly, you become someone who can genuinely help others, not from a position of weakness and people-pleasing, but from a position of strength and choice. When you understand these truths about human nature, when you've built your life on a foundation of realistic expectations and enforced boundaries, you have something real to offer. You can be generous without being taken advantage of, because you know how to structure generosity in ways that serve everyone involved. You can be kind without being weak, because your kindness comes from abundance rather than desperation. You can be supportive without being codependent, because you understand the difference between helping someone grow and enabling someone to remain weak. The strength you build through understanding and applying these secrets doesn't isolate you from genuine human connection. It makes genuine human connection possible for the first time. This is the paradox that Hobbes understood. By accepting the harsh realities of human nature, by building our lives and our relationships on realistic foundations rather than romantic fantasies, we actually create the possibility for something beautiful, something meaningful, something that can endure the tests of time and circumstance. The relationships built on mutual respect rather than neediness, the success built on competence rather than luck, the happiness built on self-respect rather than external validation. These things last because they're built on truth rather than illusion, on strength rather than weakness, on choice rather than desperation. Hobbes warned us centuries ago that life in the state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. But he also showed us that through understanding, through clear thinking, through the wise application of power and the strategic construction of relationships and institutions, we can create something better. The question is whether you have the courage to see the world as it really is, to understand people as they really are, and to build your life on the foundation of truth rather than the quicksand of wishful thinking. These 7 secrets are your weapons against a world that will take advantage of your innocence, your naivety, your desperate desire to believe that everyone is good and that everything will work out fairly in the end. Don't go into battle unarmed. Don't navigate life blindfolded. Don't build your future on fantasies about human nature that will crumble the moment they encounter reality. Take these truths, internalize them, use them, and watch as your life transforms from something that happens to you into something you consciously create and control. The choice is yours, and the time is now.